Good evening, hope all is well. So I wanted to share a quick idea. I will not be able to have a video Zoom class this week, so I want to share a little video about something from the Torah portion. And actually the reason why I won't be able to do a class online this week is because I am having a colonoscopy, endoscopy, and I'm actually going to have my esophagus. They're going to do a stretch inside my esophagus. Interesting thing. Happy to talk about it another time. But of course, it relates to the Torah portion. How'd you know, right? So how does it relate to the Torah portion? And this week's Torah portion is super loaded. It's almost like one of those ice creams that's like a fully loaded ice cream. It's got caramel and chocolate and peanuts and this and that, Rocky Road, beyond. There's everything. Everything is in this week's Torah portion. And it really is an integral transitional portion for the Torah, for the Jewish people. Major things happen here. We have the episode of the golden calf, which includes the bringing down of the tablets. Moshe brings down the luchos, the two tablets. He breaks the first ones. He goes back up. So this is in this week's Torah portion. Now, after the Jewish nation fails, this has this horrible episode of the golden calf. So there's God's wrath comes out. Moshe prays and appeases God. God gives over the 13 attributes of mercy that we know. Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachum, V'chanon, Erech, Apayim, right? Those 13, that song that we sing, is the 13 attributes of mercy, which is the secret to attaining forgiveness, appeasing God. So God gives us that secret. And then, towards the end of this whole episode, Moshe says to Hashem, I want to understand your way. I want to see your glory, is what Moshe asks of Hashem. And then God says to Moshe, he says to him, listen, and I'll quote for you, this is actually in Exodus chapter 33, verse 23. So basically God says to Moshe, look, you can't see my face. You can go behind this rock, and there's a cleft in the rock, and you'll be able to see me pass by. The way it works is God walks by, and he's wearing his Tallis, whatever that means. God's wearing a Tallis. And Moshe is able to see the back of God. He sees the back of God, right? God walking by, he sees the Tallis, right? The back of God from behind, he sees this Tallis of God. Interesting topic as to what the lessons are of the Tallis. What exactly is going on over there? I have some ideas. Be interested to talk about it at some point. What is the lesson of the Tallis? But over here, Hashem says to Moshe, look, you won't be able to see my face. He says like this, then I shall remove my hand. God says, I'm going to remove my hand so you can see, and you will see my back, but my face may not be seen, is what God says. You'll see my back, but my face may not be seen. One of my favorite approaches to what does God mean over here? You can see my back, but my face may not be seen. So Rabbi Emanuel Feldman, in his book On Judaism, I do not recall who he quotes when he expresses this idea, but he says like this. He says, what is God saying to Moshe? Moshe, you cannot see my glory in its full, which means we cannot look at God head on and understand and see God. So let's think about this for a second. If we're going through a tough situation in life, a very dark moment that we are experiencing on an individual level, as a people, as a world, the world is filled with darkness. And Moshe says to God, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do good things happen to bad people? Is what he's really asking. God, I want to understand you. How do you work? What is this? How does this function? And God says to Moshe, while you're in it, while you're facing it, while you're inside the situation, in that darkness, that you cannot see my face. You can't see it in the moment. But when I pass by, and you're staring at it, looking at it from behind, in retrospect, or you can just sit down and have some introspection about what happened, reflection about what happened, right? That's when you'll be able to see it. In it, you will not be able to see it, says God. In the darkness, that requires emunah, that requires faithfulness, it requires bitachon, it requires trust in God. And afterwards, perhaps, is when we'll be able to see it, is what God is saying to Moshe. And this is something that is so, I think about this concept. I'm not saying it's an easy thing for me. I don't think it's an easy thing for anybody. But why am I having a colonoscopy? I think this is number 6, maybe number 8, my 8th colonoscopy in my life over here. It all goes back to my Crohn's. And I think back to the moments of when I first was diagnosed with this Crohn's disease. When I was first diagnosed, I was really sick, losing crazy weight. I was literally just about half the weight that I am now. Yes, I need to lose some weight, but I was about half the weight that I am now when I was really, really sick. And I couldn't understand it at all at that point. It was so dark, right? I was getting into a dark place with it, unhealthy place with it, and thanks God I had family support, I had friend support, I had my rabbis and mentors that came and spent time with me to talk to me about it and help me to understand how to approach it. And the best advice, which I've shared before, but perhaps I haven't shared it with you, was one of my teachers, one of my rabbis said to me, Noach, this can be a built-in excuse for your entire life. Or you can decide that this is going to help make you who you are. In that dark moment, my rabbi said to me, Noach, this can be the biggest blessing for you because it will help you understand who you are. It'll help you learn more about yourself, take on challenges, and really help make you who you are today or throughout your lifetime. So as I read this Torah portion, I prepare for a colonoscopy. I don't know what the results are going to be. I don't know exactly what they're going to see. Besides, there's some other challenges that I'm having that they're also stretching out this esophagus challenge that I have, so which might be related to the Crohn's perhaps. I remind myself of this episode of Moshe. Even Moshe couldn't understand in the moments what it is that Hashem was doing, what it is that God is doing, why God is doing the things that He's doing. Even Moshe couldn't understand it. God said to Moshe, "You'll see my back. You'll see it from behind. You'll recognize at that point. After it passes by, you reflect on it. You look at it. You do some introspection. You research it a little bit. You start to connect the little dots, the dots of this and that, the details of what happened, how it played out. And then you'll start to understand the ways of Hashem, why Hashem does what He does. Even though it seems so dark, and it is dark, it's so hard when we're in it. Right? But really, when we can reflect back on it, I can give you examples of my life of how my Crohn's have saved me or helped me accomplish amazing things. At least I think they're amazing things, right? At times, I'm not going to say there aren't times where I use my Crohn's as my excuse to get out of something. There definitely are. But over here, Hashem is telling us this lesson. Our obstacles in life, our challenges in life, they are there for a reason. And very often those challenges are where we can recognize and learn more about ourselves and figure out who we are, what we're supposed to become. It's hidden in those challenges. If there's an area in life that God is super challenging you, right? Or a person feels like they're constantly having a tough time with this situation. So often that is hidden within that is the gem that will show a person who they are. Or bring out a certain energy, a certain strength that you have, a certain power that you might have you didn't know. And it comes forth, it's born or brought to light through this dark episode. So I'm not excited to have a colonoscopy. I was actually nervous if I would even make it through a whole video where I have to run to the restroom because I'm prepping for the colonoscopy. Maybe that's TMI, right? But I do try, because it's easy to get in a bad place about these kinds of things, have to do these kinds of things. But thanks God the Torah portion is here to tell me, to remind me what life is about. Hashem gives us challenges. He puts us through tough things. Our world today is going through really, really tough things, tough situations out there. And I don't have answers we don't have answers right now as to why it's happening, why Hashem is doing it. But we need to know and have the bitachon, have the trust and emunah in Hashem. God's got a plan. There's a reason for this. And right now our job is to make sure we are being the best version of ourselves, make sure that we're being a light unto the nations, unto the world, making sure that while we, the Jews, are in the spotlight, Israel's in the spotlight, the Jewish nation's in the spotlight, right? The whole world is looking at us to see how we're behaving. What's our reaction to what's going on? What are we doing? How are we behaving right now? Our job is to make sure we're being the best version of ourselves and trying so hard to have our own introspection, to do our own looking inwards and saying, am I being the best me? Am I part of the reason that this is happening? Looking for lessons to take from it, to work on our connection, our achdus, our unity, and all those kinds of things. We don't know the reason why it's happening, but there's certainly things that we know as a people, and at an individual level, on a communal level, global level, there's things that we could work on during that Hashem is helping us to work on during this time. Fortunately, I have a cousin who was killed yesterday in Gaza. He was killed in Gaza. Sweet cousin of mine. I think is a second cousin once removed. Not very far at all. That's a real cousin right there. I did not get to know him well. He lived in Israel. He's been living in Israel for many years, so I did not get to know him at all. But these are dark times. And the Torah portion is here to tell us, Hashem is telling us, I've got this. You do you. You be the best you. And reflect on it. Look at it. Try to understand it. Don't get hung up on trying to understand that while we're in it. Just make sure we plow forward and keep doing great things. That's one of the lessons of the Torah portion.